Hey everyone, we're back this week with another tutorial, this time with some tips on how to mix up fonts in your typographies and your doodles. So I just want to show you all today how I made this little doodle and the ways in which I use different fonts to make it more fun. Today I'm using my navy micron pen with a .45 point. Also, I'm using a Recollections piece of cardstock. So first what you're going to do is choose a quote or a lyric or whatever you want to write out. I have a simple lyric. I thought it was pretty easy to use a lot of different types of fonts simply because of the repetition of the word run. So it makes it pretty easy to mix up fonts and add some variety to your doodle. The next step of what you're going to do is just figure out what works. When you are mixing with different fonts, remember that opposites attract. So I chose a few different examples here that I just wrote out quickly, and obviously I chose a great line to use as an example. Natalie is super awesome. Comment if you agree. Did you hear that? Yeah. So don't be afraid to mix things up. So for the first one I use a tall, skinny kind of font with a fat, funky font underneath. Here I chose something really frilly. Underneath I chose something plain. You can do small fonts with bigger fonts. And then at the bottom I show how you can use something more formal with something a lot more casual underneath. Get to know what works, but don't forget that you can always try something new, and ultimately you just gotta go for it and figure out what works best for you. So I'm gonna be recreating this piece. I'm gonna write out the first two words in the same font with just a cursive, because that's kind of my go-to. So on my original, I just drew some dandelions. I really like flowers, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that to the side, just so I know where the rest of my quote is gonna go. Okay, and now that I have a little bit of decoration going on and I've written my first two words, I'm gonna start adding variety to my piece of typography. The next word is run. So I'm gonna contrast with the cursive and I'm gonna try more of a bubble letter and a thicker font. Now that I have a blockier word for the second two runs, since there's 5 runs in all in this quote and it's kind of a lot to handle sometimes, I'm gonna put 2 on the next line to also fill this longer space. To contrast the bigger font of run, I'm gonna do a skinnier and smaller font for these next 2. Okay, so as you can see, we have a cursive font on the top, a thicker font on the bottom, a couple of skinny runs right here, and next I think I'm going to return back to cursive but with a little bit of a variation. So now I'm just kind of going to go for it and see what happens for this last run. And lastly, now that I've used a whole bunch of different fonts in my runs, I'm going to return to the same font that I used at the beginning, just to tie the whole piece together. And there you go, you finished the font portion of your doodle with a little bit of fun decoration on the side, and my favorite part is always going back, thickening the letters, and adding detail wherever you think is necessary. So the first thing I'm going to do is add my cheating calligraphy technique to the top 2 words and the bottom 2 words. If you want to learn how to do this cheating calligraphy technique, check out my other video and I will put the link below. Don't be afraid to also mix up your fonts by changing the thickness. So for this first run, I'm going to make it a little bit thicker than the rest of them. I'm also going to add the cheating calligraphy technique to my last 2 words, just so I can match the top 2. And there you go! If you have any other questions on how to mix up fonts, feel free to ask in the comment section below. I hope you learned a little something today, and keep on doodling!